Passion is something you feel. I think about passion as another word for energy. Passion is something you feel. Passion is so simple to bring into your life because passion is literally just about getting intentional, about filling your time with things that bring you energy. It kind of makes sense, right? That's all that passion is. And now that you understand this simple idea of what passion is, that it's something you feel, it's for you, it brings energy into your life, you now understand why people say, oh, I'm living my passion. I would never use that sentence because I think the accurate thing is I feel passionate about my work as a doctor. What they're saying when somebody says that is they're saying, I feel energized by my work. And if you are one of the 89% of people that feel stuck right now, here's what I know. If you look at your day-to-day and your week-to-week life, you are not doing anything that naturally brings energy into your life, positive energy. And a simple way to flip the switch and bring more passion into your life is to become intentional about making time to do the things.
Need motivation?
You better watch a Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I struggled to stay afloat. I quit my business partner, and the thing that kept me going was studying the stories of famous entrepreneurs and seeing how they struggled and seeing what they had to overcome and listening to their wisdom, motivation, gave me the courage, the strength, the belief to go one more day and see my business through. And in all honesty, I still need the inspiration, wisdom, motivation today for my business too. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Mel Robbins, and my take on her top 10 rules for success. Enjoy. Rule number 2 is study success.
This is where I think people go off the rails. They're sitting at home thinking, yeah, I want to start a podcast as well. And I want to hear, because I know that you end up doing it on a way more professional stage, but walk people through who'd you call? Was it a relationship that you built 20 years ago? I want people to follow that.
Yeah, so
train.
First things first, I went to my friend Google. And I'm like, how do you start a podcast? Honest to God, because I'm smart enough to know it's different than radio. And I didn't even know what equipment people have. I didn't know anything about, okay, do you go to, how do you put a podcast up? Do you put it everywhere? I don't know. Is there a form that you put the title on and the captions, and then do you send it somewhere? I know how to upload a video to YouTube. I know how to, but I don't know anything about this market. And so I went to Google. You're going to laugh at me, but I bought a course about podcasting.
Not laughing at all.
I studied a bunch of videos about the type of equipment that people bought. I then just started stalking people that are doing it. And I started to say to myself, okay, what does somebody that already has a podcast, what do they do that I'm not currently doing? And so the first step is obviously learn about it. Identify a group of people that serve as what I call your lights on the path. And so lights on the path are people that are anywhere from 1 step ahead of you to 10 years ahead of you. And these are all people that can guide you forward if you study what they did. And most of them, by the way, we live in the most magical period of time. You have no excuse for not walking toward what you want. I realize it may be harder for some of us with mental health issues. I realize that not everybody starts at the same starting line because of bias and all kinds of things that can happen to people. But the bottom line is, through your actions and attitude, you can create anything you want. And look, I'm sitting here saying I've been wanting to do a podcast for 8 years, and for 6 years, I was nothing but excuses for why I couldn't get started. And then finally, I'm like, F it, I got to start. And so you start by Google the topic. Number 1. Become a student of what you want to be first. That's the mindset. What can I learn? What are people doing that is calling to me? What are people doing that I don't like? And so as I started being a student of this, really important, that's why I say Google. Google is a search engine. Become a student of what you want to learn about or launch in your life. And there's a bazillion books, there's master classes, there's free videos, there's workshops. And what's so cool, people like Tom are unpacking this for you with people. And so you can also hear people's stories.
Rule number 3 is overcome anxiety.
The question is, how do you deal with the anxiety that comes from waking up and being on a roll and realizing that when you're making things happen, it's easy to look back and realize how much of your life you wasted. And that makes you present to how potentially little time you have left and how much there is to do in the little time that you have. I can so relate to this. So relate to this. The few things I want to say about this is that I don't think that our experience of feeling anxiety about getting it all done before your life is over, or getting it all done in the time that you have, I don't think it's unique. I think that that is something that starts to happen when you feel like your life is on a roll and you're not present to misery, but you're actually present to power and joy and all the cool possible things that you could do. Does the anxiety, or how do you make the anxiety go away? I don't think you can. I think that that is a very normal thing to feel when you're a big thinker and you become present to the fact that when you put in the work and when you focus, you really are capable of creating just about whatever you want in your life. And that's both empowering and daunting and terrifying as hell. And so you can't get away from that anxiety, but you can respond to the trigger. I often feel what you're talking about when I'm on an airplane. And maybe it's because I feel very vulnerable and out of control when I get on a plane and I click the buckle and I realize this puppy could go down. And then I think about, okay, I spent 49 years here. There's so much more I wanted to do. So I can relate to this. So there's two things to this. One is being present to time passing and the fact that we're all gonna die and that your life is a gift. When you get present to that, that's the biggest motivator on the planet. And when you feel one of those moments, what I do is I shrink it down and I try to find something in this moment that I'm incredibly grateful for, so that if it were to end right now, then all would be well. I think about the sunset I'm looking at. I find a picture of my kids and my husband. I think about, the lives that have been touched by the 5-second rule. And that gratitude in the moment allows my mind to not go psycho thinking about the big vastness around life and those big topics. So that calms me down immediately. That's number one. Number two, I think a slightly different question than it's probably anxiety, but I think it has more to do with momentum and how when you start to get unstuck and you start to see things happening, you'll notice that things feel like they start moving faster, as if you are on a treadmill and somebody has secretly come up and turned it up on you. And there are days where we're moving through our day. Like this morning was one of them. We're getting ready for this live training, and all of a sudden I caught myself almost about ready to hyperventilate because I wasn't present to this. I was present to what happens when we have 1,000 people show up and where are we gonna hold, you kind of speed it up on yourself. So when that happens, I know that I'm in the future, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I need to be right here and right now. And that when you start having big things happen and when you start feeling unstuck and when things start moving, the momentum, because an object in motion tends to stay in motion, your anxiety will make it roll faster. That will not make you effective. You have to slow it down immediately. Just in the case of getting overwhelmed by the big themes in life, when you start to feel like things are going too fast, oh my God, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough time. No, yes, you do. Slow it down, okay? I'm always looking for new ways to explain the power of the 5-second rule and the power of 5-second decisions. And I read something that Tim Ferriss said that really resonated with me. And he had this one line buried in a podcast somewhere that just jumped out, and it's stuck. And what he said is, he said something about how there's a gap between the world and the things that trigger you and your response. And your entire life is that gap. When you start to, this is not what he said, I kind of identified this gap, and I, of course, intrinsically was like, well, absolutely, that's the 5-second window between instinct or stimulus and your reaction. And when you start to understand that your whole life plays out in this 5-second gap, and that there's a gap that's 5 seconds long between fear and courage, and there's a gap that's 5 seconds long between self-doubt and confidence. That is your life. And what's super cool about understanding that your whole life is inside this gap is it's so small, everybody, that you have the ability to control it. Life's always gonna throw triggers at you, and there will always be all kinds of cool things that inspire you, your wisdom, and you get to choose what happens in that gap. Do you succumb to an excuse, or do you push yourself forward? When you start to speak up in business, you'll be shocked at how you start to speak up in your relationships. When you start to make hard phone calls, whether it's in a selling situation, you'll be surprised at how you'll start to close the gap and have hard conversations in your personal life. And so that gap is everywhere, and it's the same everywhere. And when you start to go to work in controlling how you live in that gap between stimulus or idea and your response, that's where the magic is. And that's what you're experiencing.
Rule number 4 is take control of your life.
When life suddenly changes and you feel like you have lost control and you start to feel stuck and powerless, how do you take control when you don't know where your life or the world or this moment is going? And here's the number one thing I want you to know. You don't need to know where this moment or where the world is going. You just need to know where you are going next. And one of the things that has happened, certainly in the pandemic, but it always happens when there's any kind of reckoning in your life, is that when you have something suddenly happen and your life is fundamentally changed, whether it's a death, or somebody says, I don't love you anymore, or you're fired, or you find yourself with a scary health diagnosis, there is a line in the sand. There is a life before that happened, and then a life after that moment happened. And that line in the sand, that reckoning that happens, and it happens for all of us, whether it's happening for you right now, or it has happened in the past, I'm telling you, there is a gift inside of this, even the darkest moments, because every single sudden change in your life that makes you feel like you've lost control and you no longer know where you're going, it's like hitting the giant pause button. And if you lean into the moment, there is a chance for tremendous wisdom and growth. There are things that you can do right now in order to take control of where you're going, of what you're thinking about. And you can start to take this moment of change and you can use it to be able to take and make an intentional pivot in the direction that is meant for you next. And one of the things I want to say about this moment is, look, if you're losing loved ones, you are terrified, this has made you lose your job, you feel like you're in that moment where everything, you're falling off a cliff, you're trying to pack a parachute, you're grieving. And so you got to give yourself space to grieve the losses that you're feeling. And when you get a little bit of distance from the grieving and the waves of grief and fear that you're feeling start to space out. They don't ever leave you, but over time, those waves of, holy cow, and I don't want this, and I can't handle this, and why is this happening to me? Time will start to lessen those waves. You will gather your feet underneath you again, and you will absolutely be stronger and be a better version of yourself based on this incredible challenge that you're facing. And I can say that even though you may be facing a tough time, because if you think about your life, you faced extraordinary challenges, and there hasn't been a single one that hasn't made you a better and stronger version of yourself. And this moment will be no different. So I want you to understand that when you get out of the cycle of grief, this is an enormous reckoning, an enormous opportunity for you to hit the pause button and for you to start to ask yourself the question, what do I want my life to look like? Because I think too many of us are sitting here going, I can't wait for my life to get back to normal. I can't wait for this to end. I can't wait to things to go back to normal. And in any moment of reckoning, what happens is there's actually parts of your old life that you don't want to go back to. And there is a tremendous amount that you're learning in this moment that you need to pause and take in and say, okay, based on what I've just learned, based on my old life, when I look ahead to my new life, what is it that I want my new life to look like? This next chapter, I can turn to a blank page, I can take all this wisdom, all this resilience, all this strength, and I can write something new. That's what I want you to know. You don't need to know where the world or where everything is headed. You just need to know where you're going to head next.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is defeat procrastination.
You're not a procrastinator. You have a habit of procrastinating. Big difference. Because if it's a habit, I can teach you to use science to break it. You see, all habits have 3 parts. There's a trigger, and in the case of procrastination, the trigger is always stress. Then there's a pattern you repeat, and in the case of procrastination, it is to avoid doing something. And then there's a reward. You get a little stress relief. The only way to break a habit, you guys, is not to deal with the triggers. You're never gonna get rid of the stress in your life, but you can 100% change your pattern of avoiding work. So next time that you're in a situation where you feel yourself hesitate, you spent way too much time checking out the highlights from last night's scores, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go, oh, I must be stressed out about something. Acknowledge the stress. Then go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I want you to count to yourself because I want you to interrupt the habit that's stored here, and I want you to awaken your prefrontal cortex. Then I want you to just work, just for 5 minutes. The reason why I want you to only work for 5 minutes is because your problem isn't working. It's the habit of avoiding. I just need you to start. And here's the other cool thing. We know based on research that if we can get you to start, 80% of you are going to keep going.
Rule number 6 is believe in change.
Everybody is capable of change, period. You and I have seen too much evidence of it that you could try to argue to Tom and to Mel Robbins that this person is beyond change. It is complete bullshit. I think everybody is capable of change unless you have some sort of incredible psychosis or diagnosed something or another that makes it neurologically incapable. Everybody's capable of change. And so the importance of what you're doing cannot be understated because our brains are organized to spot evidence that matches our belief system. That's the way the RAS works. And until you start to interrupt the story that you're telling yourself, you're going to continue to feel stuck. You're going to continue to see those thoughts. And this kind of content that you're putting out is hugely important because the other thing that interrupts the RAS is representation. If you see somebody that looks like you, or you see somebody like me that was facing bankruptcy 14 years ago and have liens on my house, and you see somebody else that faced the shit that you feel overcome by, it's proof that you can do it too.
Rule number 7 is interrupt your excuses.
The barrier is everybody gives a shit what other people are thinking. And so they're on camera or they're on a microphone trying to be smart or concerned about whether or not they look good in the shot, concerned about how they sound, whether or not they stuttered, if their neck is turning red, like whatever it may be. And they're so up here that they're not actually being true to just saying what's right here.
Absolutely.
Whether you're speaking from the heart, speaking from the gut, like that is the skill to develop, is the ability to be more like an 11-year-old that gets on camera and can just be themselves instead of being a 49-year-old person censoring themselves.
Got it.
And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the truth, when I talk about authenticity, that people really want to feel that connection. And the only way that they're going to feel that connection is if you do the work to remove the own veneer and the own barriers that you put in between you and other people. And the number one thing is everybody gives too much of a about what everybody else thinks.
Absolutely.
And you know who they think they're worried the most about? Their friends.
Yeah.
If I put this thing up, not for my friends, but for the people that I'm trying to build a rapport with online, my friends are going to judge me. Your friends. Seriously. If you're out to make a difference, if you're out to share something that is important to you, if your friends don't like it or don't support you, they're really not your friends.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, no, definitely makes total sense.
And it's a really hard lesson. It's a very hard lesson because everybody's always judging everybody else. That's why you can't worry about it.
Do you have like recommendations for how people just get started, like from moving from that, like to basically move from their mindset of I care too much to I don't care as much? Like, are there steps that you recommend people take?
The only step that really works is action.
Okay.
Because if you're stopping to think about what people are thinking or whether or not you're worried about what people are thinking, you've already fallen into the trap.
Okay.
The second that you push yourself to get started through the action itself, you are proving to yourself that even though you care what everybody thinks, you're gonna do it anyway.
Okay.
And so that's why I talk about the 5-second rule. The 5-second rule is how you interrupt the excuses, the patterns, the concerns, and the fears that you have, whether it's perfectionism, whether it's disappointing your parents, whether it's being judged by your friends, whether it's looking stupid when you post something, whether it's screwing up and saying something that a bunch of trolls come after you for, right? All those things that everybody's concerned about. That can stop you forever.
Absolutely.
If you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you break the part of the brain where all of those trappings are, and you awaken your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that you're using when you're creating content, when you're speaking with courage, when you're learning something new. And so that's why this simple brain trick that I invented is exploding around the world, because every last one of us is exactly the same. Exactly the same. You and I, we want the same thing. We want to actually live a life where we get to express ourselves at the highest level. We're all want the same thing, and we're all stopping ourselves the same way, by thinking too much, by buying into the lies that self-doubt tells you. And so I'm here to tell you, you can cut that off at the knees. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you can make a 5-second decision. The second you feel that doubt, the second you feel that concern, the second you feel that fear, and you can literally feel it and actually move anyway.
Rule number 8 is decide with your heart.
In fact, I was just talking with my creative director, and she was sharing with me that a friend of hers is going through this terrible thing right now. It's not terrible. It's just what happens in life, where she knows that the relationship that she's in isn't right. They get along really well. Things are really easy, but in her heart, she knows it just isn't right. Those are the kinds of decisions that are really difficult to make. And so it gets to the heart of Emily's question, which is, how do I know whether to make a decision with my head or a decision with my heart? I'm the kind of person that believes you should always make decisions with your heart and soul. You can use your brain for math. You can use your brain to look at the fine print in a contract. But when it comes to the actual feel of the decision, you always want to go inward and check it against your heart and soul. How do you do that? Here's the simple test. Does the decision that you're about to make expand you, expand your future, or expand the possibilities of your life? If the answer is yes, then the decision is yes, no matter how terrifying it is. If you conversely look at the choice that you have to make, and the decision will shrink you, will silence you, will inhibit you in some way, then the answer is no. No matter how easy the decision is, no matter how safe the decision is, the answer is no. Now, one of the things I want to point out that when you start to use this, does it expand or does it shrink me? Does it open possibilities or does it keep things closed? Does it raise my voice or does it silence me, right? Is that there's always a short-term and a long-term impact to the decision. The short-term impact to making an expansive decision, a decision that's based in your heart and your soul, sometimes it's terrifying because sometimes it means moving, or it means changing a job, or changing a relationship, or having a difficult conversation, or starting something new. And those sorts of things are always uncomfortable. So brace for impact, put the force fields up,
but make the decision anyway. Because the long-term impact of making a decision from your heart and soul, that is where the best life comes from. Because you're living for what's true for you, not what's safe in the moment.
Rule number 9 is find hope.
Most of the that we react to is some sort of response to a past experience. And that it's not until you have a wake-up call from somebody like Tom Bilyeu, or you see somebody that has been in your circumstance that has overcome it, or somebody says something that challenges what's been programmed up here, that's the wake-up call. And that's when you realize, oh, wait a minute. All of this that I just naturally believe, like, for example, I didn't choose to speak English. That's what was spoken in my house, so I absorbed it. If you grew up with a hypercritical parent or a narcissistic leaning parent, you probably absorbed certain things from them that you don't want now that you're an adult.
Yeah, I
right?
won't even say probably, that's a guarantee.
Yes. And so I just wanted to be very clear, because one of the things that prevents people from changing their lives is when you said the thing about what's missing, I was going to say hope. Because without hope that things could change or that this new action or thought matters, you won't do it. And so if you have this moment where you immediately get this wake-up call that maybe I don't have to be miserable, maybe I don't have to criticize myself, maybe I don't have to live with anxiety for the rest of my life, maybe I could be the first one to go to college, maybe I could live as an openly gay or trans person even if my family rejects me. Like, there's that wake-up call moment that is critical. But now what you're up against is completely learning how to reprogram all that default that somebody else put there. And that's the work that you're up to. That's the work that I'm doing for myself. And I did it at a certain level up until the last 2 years. Like, I've been chipping away at this at all different kinds of levels. And I think the more self-aware you become, and the more successful that you become in achieving goals or taking away a lot of the stressors that, are no joke, like paying your bills, the deeper the opportunity to attack the deeper, which is what I've been working on.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is manage distractions.
If you want to get work done, you have to manage distractions and interruptions. So the tech stuff is easy. Put your computer or your phone on do not disturb so that you can get work done. That's number 1. Number 2, if it's interruptions from family members, what the heck? Put a sign on your door. Do not disturb unless you are on fire. Or I'll be available in an hour unless it's an emergency. When we first started quarantining, my kids were so anxious and discombobulated, they would come in to my office at home every 10 minutes. Mom, how do I cook microwave popcorn? Mom, how much food do I feed the dog? Mom, is someone going to the grocery? Mom, can I? And you know what they were doing? A lot of times when people interrupt you, they're managing their own anxiety, boredom, procrastination by coming to interrupt you. They're creating reasons to interrupt their own work or their own emotional state by coming and interrupting you. That's what I realized was happening. Everybody was all discombobulated. We're underneath one roof. People are bored, frustrated, procrastinating, feeling anxious. And so what do you do if you can't sit still and you don't want to do what you're doing? You get up, and you can't drive to a coffee shop, and you can't go run an errand, and you can't go do so you go interrupt somebody. So I'm not kidding when I tell you, put a sign on the door. The other thing that you should do that is super helpful, I know this sounds terrible, but it works like a charm. On Sunday night, have a family meeting. Go over the week. Outline all of the things that you have coming up. And then you've got to take it a step further. I've been doing a tremendous number of virtual presentations for companies all over the world. And whenever I'm streaming online for a paid client, it's not enough to have previewed this for my family on Sunday. That takes care of who's picking people up and what needs to happen on Tuesday when I'm giving the presentation. But when I'm in the middle of it, nobody's going to remember that mom was not supposed to be interrupted. So you know what I do? I text everybody in our family group chat in all caps. I'm about to go online for a paid client. Do not call me. Do not. I will not pick up from 2 o'clock to 3:30. Thank you. I love you. And that has worked like a charm. You should hang something on the door. And you can have a sign that says you may enter, and then you should have a sign that says you may not, and then put a sticky note as to when you're going to be available again. That way, you are training somebody to stop and think before they walk in. You're training somebody to go, is this actually important, before they come to you. In terms of everything else, it's on you to hit the do not disturb. It's on you to send calls to voicemail. It's on you to turn off the notifications, because you simply can't work if those things are happening. You've got to manage the interruptions and distractions, period. You shouldn't feel alone, because so many people have anxiety about toxic relationships related to their families and how they have to confront them during the holidays. So here's the thing I want you to think about when it comes to the holidays. Holidays can be one of two things when you have toxic relationships with your family. It can either be a personal challenge, or it can be a chance to have a personal transformation. And the personal transformation that I'm talking about is not changing your mother or your annoying older brother or your racist aunt. I'm talking about whether or not you have a personal transformation, because you can't fully get rid of toxic situations or toxic people, but you can transform how you behave when you're around those kinds of people. So the holidays can be a chance for you to practice boundaries, practice self-control, to be emotionally resilient and strong and not get triggered, and to also have the courage to express the new you, to express your true self. So if you left home a long time ago, you've grown as a person, you've changed, you've evolved, and then every time you go back home, you feel like you've stepped into a time warp and you're suddenly 8 years old again, this is a chance to transform yourself so that when you walk in the door, you are who you are now, not who you used to be when you still lived at home. And so there's a couple things that I want you to think about before you go home, before you have the interaction, so that you are prepared emotionally to make this a transformation for yourself personally. Number one, don't assume the old role that you used to play. So just because you're in your childhood home or you're with people that you know from your childhood, do not make the mistake of falling back into old patterns. Don't suddenly start acting like the youngest one again. If you're the youngest in your family, if you're always been dad's favorite and everybody hates that, stop playing into it. So there are things that we do that we don't even realize when we step into our childhood homes or around the people that we grew up with, where we slip right back into old patterns. Make sure you know what those are so that you have them in check for yourself. Number two, this is a huge one. Don't take the bait. This was advice that I got from my brother a long time ago. Don't take the bait. You know that there are relatives and friends from your past that just love to cast the guilt. They just love to cause issues. They're constantly casting like a fisherman, all kinds of things out there. And if you're the kind of person like I used to be, when somebody gets upset, you grab the bait and then you start trying to make it okay. And the next thing you know, you're arguing with somebody over something really stupid. Just don't take it. Don't let yourself get triggered. If somebody's casting the guilt, let them cast. Don't hit that lure. You know what I'm saying? They're welcome to say whatever they want to say. If you don't react, there's no issue. You don't have to worry about making sure that your mom or your dad doesn't say that stuff. Just don't react to it. And you'll be shocked at how the dynamic changes. You know, this is another piece of advice that my friend Danielle gave me today, and it comes from the Calm app. You can also, before you go into the situation, visualize the really busy road. Now, in a very busy road, there are people that are passengers in those cars, and there are people that are pedestrians on the sidewalk who are watching the cars go by. I want you to think about the dynamic in your family as cars zipping down the highway, right? Everybody's got all kinds of issues and conversations and kids and this and that, and people want attention, and there's all kinds of things racing by. Your role when you're around your family is to be a pedestrian on the sidewalk, watching it all go by. This is another form of not taking the bait. The last thing you want to do when your mom pulls the guilt train up is to climb on board and be a passenger on that ride, okay? You know what I'm saying? You're going to stay on the sidewalk. You're not going to take the bait. You're just going to watch the traffic as it speeds and whips by.
Don't climb in when the guilt car pulls up, okay? Next thing, this has also been a major thing for me, empathy. Empathy is a superpower. My relationship with my mom changed dramatically for the better when I stopped judging her and I started thinking about what she must be feeling. Seriously. Like if you've got somebody in your life that's angry, that says hurtful things, that's disappointed or upset, all of those things, anger, pain, disappointment, it's all just a mask for hurt. So any kind of toxic behavior that you're seeing in other people, unless it's some sort of narcissism personality disorder, for most normal human beings, if they're exhibiting bad behavior, it's literally just unexpressed hurt. That's all that it is. And a healthy dose of empathy, like thinking about how hard it was in the household where your parents grew up, or thinking about all the struggles that maybe one of your siblings who's really annoying because they take up all the energy, how many struggles they've faced, or thinking about how lonely your aunt is because your uncle's died. Thinking from a point of view that's empathetic, it's amazing. It's very personally transforming because it helps you set boundaries. It helps you not get triggered. It helps you to be more emotionally mature and resilient. And it will help you make these holidays an opportunity for personal transformation instead of a massive personal challenge.
I want to teach you how to train yourself to dream big. It's actually a skill. And dreaming big is something that we used to do as kids, right? It was so easy as kids to sit in class because you were bored with, whatever it was that your teacher was doing, and you started to daydream. And as adults, we tend to lose that ability. So the Dream Book is going to be your companion to this program. And here's my philosophy about training yourself to dream big again as an adult. In the Dream Book, one of the things that you're going to be doing as a daily practice is you're going to do something that I do in my book. And that is every time I crack this open, because I keep my notes in here, is I write down the 5 things that I dream about. So I've written down, okay, I'm super embarrassed that I've written this down. So I'm going to tell you what my 5 are. And you can see, you probably can't see how red I'm turning because I have so much makeup on because I was in television today. And in television, they put a lot of makeup on you. In digital, I normally look like shit. But this is why we all need to learn to dream big and to dream authentically, because when you talk about it, you immediately shrink, because we're trained not to have these aspirations. So the first thing that I wrote down is I want to be the #1 talk show in the United States. You know what's so fascinating is I used to dream of just actually being where I am. And now that I've achieved that, I have a dream that's even bigger. And what does it mean, and why is this dream important to me? And this is part of what you're going to learn in the workbook, but I'll tell you why this dream is important to me. Because if we are #1, it means that the work that we're doing that I care so deeply about, which is helping people heal their minds and heal their relationships and to live a more positive, happy, mentally well life, that we're reaching more people. That's what that means. And that's why I want it. I wrote down #1 New York Times bestseller. I have for years said I don't give a shit about it, but I actually do, I guess. And I think it's because it would be really nice to have the powers that be actually acknowledge the impact that we're making. Do I need it to keep going forward? No, of course not. And I will keep going forward. I want to make the Time 100 list for mental health and for the work that we're doing. And the reason why is because as much as I like being an entrepreneur that does things in a very innovative way, that kind of public recognition brings with it resources and partners that would allow you to make an even bigger impact. And so when I think about that kind of recognition, it challenges me to dream so much bigger than I'm dreaming right now about the impact that I want to make in mental health. The 4th one, this is not my dream right now, but I wrote this down 3 days ago, and that is to be the happiest I've ever been living in Vermont. The reason why I wrote that down at the time is because my son is going to go to high school in Vermont, and we are grappling with a move. And I had a mental breakdown when we started looking at houses there, thinking I couldn't live here. One of the interesting things about dreaming is your dreams will change. I love the daily practice of writing in your dream book the 5 things you're dreaming about, because you'll notice that there are things that show up consistently for you, and that's a sign that it's important to pay attention to it. It's important to walk toward it. And by writing, I dreamed that I'd be the happiest I'd ever be in Vermont, I was doing the work of trying to shift my attitude about how I was feeling about a move when I'm not that excited about it right now. The 5th one is I want to build a summer house. I grew up on Lake Michigan. I've spent the last 30 years not on the water. I dream to be successful enough that someday, in the next decade, I will have the money to buy a fantastic piece of property on the ocean, and I will build an awesome house that is a gathering place for our family. And hopefully, that will not include grandchildren in the next decade. And one of the things that will help you to do the work to create the things that you want in your life is it will help you if you train your mind to start spotting evidence as you're doing the work, as you're going through your day. It will help you if you train your mind to start scanning the world and spotting evidence that, yes, indeed, the world is sending you positive signals that things are going to work out. Now, why is it important to train your mind to help you get what you want? Well, the reason why is because if you get into a negative mindset, if you start thinking, this business is never going to work, why even bother? Or I'm never going to meet anybody. It's nothing but losers out there. Look at all these idiots on Hinge. Why the hell should I keep doing this? If you allow your mind to start to rest in a pessimistic, negative, protective, scared, and doubtful stance, your mind will continue to show you reasons why there's nobody on Hinge worth talking to. Your mind will continue to show you all the reasons why you will never make it in business. Your mind will continue to show you all the reasons why you're never going to lose that weight and be able to tuck in your shirt, as my friend Corinne Crabtree always talks about, that transformational moment. And when your mind goes negative, your mind starts to scan the world and will show you more reasons to stop. And the power of training your mind to spot positive signs is very simple. The power is that your mind will start to show you reasons to keep going. Your mind will help you take the step. Your mind will encourage you to feel optimistic, to feel empowered. Just like you woke up today on a Tuesday and it was February 22nd, 2022, and those numbers are lining up, and that makes you in your heart and soul go, whoa, something cool could happen today. Like that only happens like once in my lifetime, those numbers are going to line up like that. Today is a really cool day. Let's go do something with this. You could create that kind of attitude every single freaking day of your life. You could. If you train your mind and if you start taking action. And training your mind is the key piece that we're going to talk about. So for those of you that have read The High Five Habit, one of the things that I talk about a lot is every single day find a naturally occurring heart-shaped object in the world. It could be a stone, it could be a leaf, it could be a cloud, it could be a shape in your coffee. Hey, Chris, if we've got anything around here that looks like a heart, hand it to me. And the reason why I love telling you to start playing a game with yourself where you start your day going, mind, brain, show me some heart. Oh, what is this? Come here.
Dog treat.
Oh my God, it's a dog treat. Look at this, guys. What shape is that? That right there is a heart. There we go. Check that out. If you say, brain, mind, show me a heart today, guess what's going to happen? That damn dog biscuit, you're going to be like, there's a heart. You're going to look out at the sky and you're going to see a heart shape. Oh, right there in the mountains. There's a heart shape in the mountains in southern Vermont. You're going to see it in the clouds. What you're doing when you tell your mind what's important to you is you're telling your mind and the filter in your brain to change in real time and allow into your consciousness what's important to you. And if you want to see hearts, by God, those damn dog treats are going to start looking like hearts, everybody. That's how you train your mind. It's freaking incredible. And if you want to see evidence of this, follow me on social media. If you follow me, Mel Robbins, on social media, you will see every day I am reposting your stories of finding heart shapes around the world. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important because it's a simple way to prove to you that your mind changes in real time. That if you get serious about becoming more positive and optimistic and encouraging of yourself, if you get serious about saying, F this, I don't want to see all the reasons why I'm unhappy. I don't want to see everybody else in the world that's launched a business or that's lost weight and is healthy or that has a really good marriage or relationship. And I don't want to see that and have my mind process it as evidence that it's never going to happen for me. I want my mind to reprogram itself and see other people's businesses and see other people getting healthy and see other people in relationships. And I want my mind to say, yeah, if they can do it, I can do it. That's evidence. If that person can get healthy, so can I. If that person can find somebody on Hinge, so can I. If that person can reconcile with their child, so can I. Other people can become evidence that you can have it too. Right now, your mind is so f***ed up from your past that when you see what other people have and you don't have it, you can't actually translate it through a negative mind and see that that's evidence that you're going to win. You see it like, oh, somebody already stole what I wanted. That sucks. And so what I want to start to open your mind to is that you have the power to train your mind to filter the world differently. Just like you woke up and you saw the date today, 2/22/22, and your brain saw that and was like, whoa, this is a once in a lifetime day, everybody. You are never going to have another day that lines up like this. Ever. What are you going to do with this day? Your mind already interpreted this as, wow, something cool could happen. And if you tell yourself something amazing is going to happen today, something will, because you're going to be looking for it. I swear to God, something will. Something will. If you want to see the good all around you, you got to tell your mind you want to see the good. And this just isn't a bunch of horseshit, everybody. This isn't toxic positivity. There is a filter in your brain called the reticular activating system. The reticular activating system. I call it the RAS. I like to think about it like a giant hairnet on your head. And this RAS sits over your brain. I'm probably getting this wrong. I'm not a neuroscientist. I could give a shit about getting it right. I just need you to know the basics here so that you can apply it to your life, okay? You don't need a PhD to use the science that super smart people have been working really hard on in order to apply it to your life. That's what I'm here for in your life. I'm here to translate this stuff into simple, believable, and actionable things that you can do to take all this super cool stuff that people are researching and apply it to your normal person's everyday life to help you change from the inside out. And one of the coolest things that you have at your disposal is you have a whole system in your body that you can train and change. And one of those things that you can train and change that is impacted by that word you're hearing a lot of, neuroplasticity, that just means that things are able to twist and bend and change and you're able to learn new things for as long as you're alive. As long as you're breathing, everybody, you got a chance to change the way that you think. As long as you are breathing, you got a chance to change from the inside out how you experience your life. As long as you are still here watching me, people, you got a chance to create a new experience in your life. And one of the things that helps a lot is understanding that right now, all of the bullshit from your past has jammed the filter in your mind, body, and spirit, the reticular activating system. And it is clouding your ability to look at the world around you and see hearts. Remember this? Dog treat, hearts. Look at that. There's a heart right there. Part of the reason why you don't feel productive is because you're trying to complete everything. And so let's take one of the things that I saw somebody write, that you want to clean up one of the spare rooms in your apartment or in your house, that maybe there's a spare bedroom and you have been wanting to turn it into a home office, or maybe one of the kids has moved out of the house and you want to declutter that room, like in a project around organizing. Maybe it's something in your garage or your basement. Or, hey, here's one for me. Our daughter moved out and started her life. post college, and our other daughter is out in Los Angeles going to college. And we, no joke, have 3 garbage bags full of clothes that somebody needs to go through to figure out what needs to be donated, what could you actually sell because it still has tags on it. And it has been sitting there for 2 months. So maybe you have a pile of that kind of stuff in your house. This is not a priority for me. I'm perfectly fine with it sitting in the room where our laundry is. The priority for me this week is to carve out dedicated time to hang out with our 16-year-old son and do something fun together. Because we spend a lot of time together, but we don't get intentional about doing something specific. But if you want to declutter, for example, here's where we all go wrong. You identify what you want to do, and then you think you got to get it done. In order for me to go through 2 bags of clothing, for example, in order for you to clear out your garage, that could take you 2 days to do it the right way, right? Because, if you don't give yourself enough time, then you're going to piles. And so then you think I can't get it done. And so then you never schedule it, right? Okay. We're not going to worry about completion, everybody. We're going to worry about progress. So when you think about things in terms of progress, it can shrink the amount of time that you need. Maybe all that you're going to do is you're going to work on 1 dresser in the room, or you're going to work on 1 shelving unit in the garage. And by simply making the time to, number 1, identify what matters to you, and number 2, identify what meaningful progress could look like, you will now shrink the amount of time, you will define the project, and you can make the time for it. And simply just doing that is going to make you feel more productive based on the research. All right, now let me talk about what you need to do. Okay, I literally have notes for this. Oh, there we go. And I just lost it because I really want to make sure that I teach you all this stuff. So here, Becca, can you help me? Because this is not, because my thing is not, never mind. Guys, I am trying, multitasking is not how you be productive. And you are watching me multitask right now. We're going to get into some of the science now. So now that is how you leverage something called the progress principle. Okay, the progress principle is really important when it comes to productivity. This is a concept that I first learned about in the Harvard Business Review. So if it's in the Harvard Business Review, everybody, very fancy, must be accurate, right? If it's coming from Harvard. Well, the progress principle is a study that comes from a study where researchers looked at, I believe it was 14,000 work journals. And what they found after looking at the work journals of how people spent their time, 14,000 people, is that at the end of the week, the people that felt like they had been the most productive and the people who felt the most fulfilled by their work week were the people who simply made progress on something that mattered. And so by you identifying what matters to you this week, and by you identifying a way that you can make a small amount of progress on it, you are leveraging this research from Harvard Business Review about what creates productivity and meaning and fulfillment in your life. And that's making progress on something that matters. When your life blows up, and you find yourself in the ocean with like pieces of the boat all around, look for a life preserver or a raft. Okay. So I want to applaud you for doing what needed to be done when the what hit the fan. That same instinct is what is going to make you successful. The second thing that I want to tell you is once you get a hold of that life raft, you want to grab something else that floats, right? And get yourself out of that water. And so I am glad to hear that you're looking for a job. Yeah. And what I would recommend is I would recommend not pretending about the situation that you're in. There is no shame in going to a job interview and at the end of it saying, and I'm asking you for this job. And the reason why I'm asking you for this job is not only because I am going to be incredible at it and you're never going to regret it, but I actually need it. I'm in a really tight jam. I had a life crisis happen. I never thought at the age of 55 I'd be in this situation, and I need the work and I want the work, which means I'm going to show up here every single day and I am going to work the heck out of this job. I've never wanted a job more than I want a job right now. And you should tell your friends that this is what you're going through and that you need help and that you need a recommendation or you need a place to stay. And you should not do what I did, which was hide what was going on because I was so ashamed. And, I'm also going to tell you, it will take time. 5 years ago, I still had the liens on this house. 5 years ago, guys. And so it will take time for you to climb out of this, but you will climb out of this. When you're in a storm and when the lights go out in your life and things feel really dark and really heavy, there has always been one thing that helps me get through those moments. And it's reminding myself that this moment, like every painful moment of my life, was temporary. It passed. And when you can keep telling yourself this moment it's going to pass and it's leading me somewhere. When you can trust in that, you create your own light in that dark tunnel. And it allows you to look up. And one of the things about learning something new, like how to make money online, is that it acts like a beacon for where you're freaking going.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the powerboat that gets you there right now.
I know.
Because you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you need to find another freaking life jacket, which means you need to get a job. Which
I
means
know.
you need to just keep going on these interviews. And there's no need, if you've gone on all these interviews and people are like, you're amazing, and then you don't get it, and you think it's because you're too old or you're too desperate, or they say you're a consultant.
Right.
There's no shame in writing back and saying, I'm not sure if you filled the position, but I didn't mention that I actually need a job.
Right.
My pride got in the way. And so if you haven't filled that position, or maybe you are looking for more people, I want to make sure I'm not looking to be a consultant. I've never wanted to find a great job more than ever than this moment. There's no shame in that. What's the worst they're going to say? Yeah, we filled the job. And you got to view this moment like a test. And what is the test testing? It's testing who you are. That's part of the race right now, how you show up for it, right? It's not a matter of how you finish it. It's how you show up for it and what you do while you're running it, the kind of racer that you are. And look, I get it. This is a very difficult race that we're all running because we don't know where the finish line is. And it is very, very hard to stay motivated, which is the advice that you're seeking, Peter, when you don't even know when this damn thing is ending. This is the part of the race. I've run 4 marathons. Don't everybody gasp. I mean, it was nothing to brag about. I mean, I finished them, which is something to brag about, but it's not like I won the damn thing. But this is the point in time when you're running a race, when you said you're losing ground. What that means is you're starting to slow down. You feel your legs getting heavier. You feel your breath getting a little bit more shallow. You start to wonder, why did I sign up for this thing in the first place? You start to wonder if you are going to make it. And so here's what I'm going to tell you, Peter. When you are coaching your clients and your clients start to lose ground, when you are coaching your clients and your clients don't feel motivated and they feel tired and they feel like giving up and they don't want to do another set of burpees, what do you tell them? You tell them to dig deeper. You tell them to find the strength within them to keep going. You see, what you need right now is you need to start building the motivation of your mind. Because motivation doesn't exist in your body. It comes from up here. And what I hear is that you now have an opportunity. This is what the test is, Peter, to train harder because you are capable of so much more. This is handing you a moment where you get to become an even stronger and more capable version of yourself. Now, does that mean that you're going to be motivated all day long, every single day that you wake up? No. But it means you've got to have the mental fitness right now to continue to get up, to show up, and to dig deeper when it comes to your mindset, when it comes to your attitude, when it comes to your just knowing that you are going to get through this. And so this moment, everybody, it's telling you who you are. It's telling you whether or not you're the kind of person that shows up to a challenge and you're pissed off, or you're sad, or you feel depressed, or you feel despair, or you feel all of these things that start to take you down the drain of negativity. And what I'm here to tell you is that you are built for this moment. You may not feel like it. You may feel sad. Those are all normal feelings. You may feel negative. It's very easy to do. You may start to feel a little bit of despair. That's going to come and go. But this is where the test of this race that we're currently running lies. When those feelings rise up and you start losing ground and you start feeling like you're not going to make it to the finish line and you start feeling unmotivated, can you dig deeper and remind yourself that you were built for this moment? Because one of the things that I know is that when the shit is hitting the fan, I guarantee you there are people in your life that are looking to you. There are people in your life, whether it's clients or colleagues or family members, that are looking to you right now. You know what that tells me? That you're the kind of person that people rely on. And now is the moment in time in the race that we're all running where you got to teach yourself to rely on yourself. How do you do that? How do you build the muscle of the mind? It's very simple. Very simple. I didn't say easy. I said simple. The steps are very simple. To win this race and to build strength in this muscle right up here, you got to focus on the you can control. And that is what you do with your body and what you do with your mind. And the one thing that has made a huge difference in me, because you can see that I am showing up as a very different Mel Robbins than I've been the last couple of weeks. The last couple of weeks, I have been losing the race. I've been going up and down. I've been doing my best to stay positive, but I am now back in the race. I have now found my ground and found my footing. And it comes in focusing on what you can control. And you know what you can control? There's only one thing. It's what are you doing to make this day the best day that you can do? What are you doing to master this day today? Tomorrow, forget about next week, forget about what's happening this summer. This is a race that will be won by those of you who are the ability to focus on today and making today amazing. The two forms of anxiety are overfunctioning and underfunctioning. Now, neither one is better or worse. They're just patterns. And the cool thing with patterns is once you can spot them and talk about them and you understand them and unpack them, you can start to create mindfulness and a little bit of distance between the things that trigger your anxiety and that coping mechanism kicking in. Because for me, when I get into the mode of do, plan, I got it, I drive myself into the ground. I burn out. And that's exactly what happened this weekend. 6 weeks of basically going into hyperdrive mode as a way to cope with all this uncertainty led me to crash because I'm terrible at asking for help. And my husband, I'll have to ask him how he copes with his anxiety because he has a really amazing way of staying calm. So overfunctioning anxiety is do. It's giving advice instead of asking for help. It's assuming responsibility for things that aren't necessarily your responsibility. It's managing everybody else's emotions. And I am the master at this. And the other form of anxiety is underperforming. And as I was thinking about this, one of my 3 kids has this form, and I never would have thought it given their personality. Underperforming is when instead of thinking through your issues, you start asking for tons of advice. You push the responsibility to other people to solve your issues. You withdraw. You become paralyzed. And the reason why it's important to really think about what kind of anxiety you have, and what I want you to do is, in the comments, I want you to write down, are you a over-functioning, over-performing anxiety person, or are you a under-functioning, underperforming? And what happens when you are over-functioning is I rob the people around me of supporting me, of being responsible for themselves, of helping out. I rob myself of the support that I need and deserve. And if you stay in the pattern too long of either under or over functioning, you will drive yourself into the ground. Again, you gotta express these emotions, because burying them has never worked in the history of time. And so what I want you to do is, again, write in the comments, what is your pattern when you feel anxious? Do you over function or under function? And the solution today is very simple. I just want you to recognize the pattern. And for you over functioners, when you recognize yourself going into that mode, take a pause, get into your body, ask yourself, what do I need help with? And who can I ask for help? And what am I taking on that I don't need to take on? And how can I get myself into this moment and ground yourself? And if you are an under-functioner, same thing. Recognize when you're spinning and asking for advice or overthinking or paralyzed instead of problem solving and getting into action. If you struggle with boundaries, I want you to know you're not alone, and this is super common. And one of the reasons why I'm excited to share everything that I've learned about boundaries with you is because I used to be the kind of person that had zero boundaries. I mean, nada, nothing, zilch, nothing. In fact, there were periods of my life where it was worse than zero because I was so attached in romantic relationships that I literally would become like a human amoeba in my romantic relationships. I mean, I was like, literally, if it's possible to have negative boundaries, meaning you like somehow go in a totally different direction, that was me. And so if somebody as insecure and as emotionally attached in relationships and as people-pleasing as me can figure out how to identify, communicate, and uphold boundaries in my life, you can learn how to do this too, okay? And so that's what we're gonna unpack in this video. So I think a big question, because a lot of people talk about boundaries, they know they need boundaries, but they don't have good boundaries. Why is that? Well, the reason why we don't have good boundaries is because none of us were trained how to set them. I mean, I want you to think about your childhood for a minute. Your childhood with your caregivers, your parents, your grandparents, whoever, it is naturally an imbalance, right? Like when you come into this world, you are born into a particular family. You're born into a particular culture, religion, economic situation, a place in the world, a race, like a religion. And based on where you were born and to whom you were born into in terms of the family structure, there were all kinds of rules that you had to follow. And if you did not follow those rules, there were consequences. And so can you imagine if you, as like an 8-year-old, started to try to express boundaries, literally, like mom cooks a pot roast dinner, and you cross your arms, you're like, mom, this is a boundary cross for me. I have decided that I am no longer eating meat. Your mom would probably go, guess what, youngster? You not eating dinner is a boundary crossing for me. You're not getting up from this table until you finish what's on your plate. And so saying boundaries when you're little doesn't really work for the adults in your life. And that's why you never learned how to do it. And by the way, your parents were probably never taught how to have boundaries either. And so I want to start at the very beginning, okay? Where do you even begin? Where do you even begin when it comes to learning how to set healthy boundaries, okay? So first things first, where you're going to begin is you're going to start to think about boundaries in a completely new way, okay? The number one mistake that we all make, I made it, you're making it right now, is when you think about boundaries, you are thinking about other people first, okay? You're thinking about boundaries and believing that your boundaries are rules in a relationship that define respect, and that somehow your boundaries are going to control or change someone else's behavior. That is the exact opposite of how you should be thinking about boundaries, okay? And I'm going to give you a bunch of examples. Don't worry. I didn't realize this. This is why I was lousy at setting boundaries, because I thought that my boundaries control what other people do. No, 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 no. So how do I want you to think about boundaries, okay? Boundaries are rules that you create about your own behavior. Yep, I'm going to say that again. Boundaries are rules that you create about your own behavior. Whatever it is that you're dealing with in your life right now, it can put blinders on you because you have to deal with your aging parent. You have to deal with the illness that's in front of you. But it is so critical that you still dream. Why? Because dreams transport you from the day to day. Dreams give you a beacon to look up, because dreams will remind you that the situation that you're facing right now is temporary. Dreams will remind you that even if the situation isn't temporary, let's say that you've got some horrendous degenerative disease, and so it's going to get worse, not better. Dreams still give you a purpose to live a bigger life despite what you're dealing with. Now, you may not have the bandwidth to pursue your dreams because of how sick your parents are. That's okay. It won't always be like this. But it is critical that as a form of self-love, as a form of self-care, that you still build the skill of holding space for your dreams and writing those dreams down every day and thinking about those dreams and reading about those dreams, because they will help you move through the chapter of the life that you're in more powerfully, more grounded, and more fulfilled. Understand that you can find people to support you. You will always find people to criticize you. Watch, though, how when somebody outside of you criticizes you, how that triggers the internal pattern. So what is the pattern that you have of thinking that gets triggered that disempowers you?
That I won't have any words.
You won't have any words. Let's go deeper than that. Is it something about being loved or being unworthy or not being good enough? What is underneath, I won't have the words?
Yeah, they won't be the right words, and it won't be good enough. Yeah.
Okay. And so do you have an opinion that you're not good enough or not deserving of success, or that you're not smart enough to make a difference?
Yeah.
What is the one? What is the thing that hooks you? That you say to yourself?
That I'm stupid.
Okay, there we go. That's a good one. Not a good one, but you know what I mean. That's a good one.
Or
because
I'm a piece of shit. That's my big.
Okay, I'm a piece of shit. Now we're talking.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Who told you that?
I don't know who told me that.
When did you start believing that?
As a little girl, yeah. God, I've just been saying it for so long, I don't know.
That's okay. She said, I've been saying it for so long, I don't know.
Yeah.
As you now know what you're looking for, you're going to start to connect the dots, okay? And so here's the thing. At some point, you started telling yourself, whatever, I'm a piece of as a strategy. You did it on purpose as a youngster, as a way to survive things that were happening. Because maybe when you said, well, I'm a piece of you actually got really quiet and you didn't get hit. Or maybe when you said that, you removed yourself from situations when you would have been abused or something. It worked because it protected you, as weird as it sounds.
Yeah.
Are you seeing something?
Yeah.
What are you seeing?
Well, yeah, my dad didn't want he wanted me to be quiet in the corner, being quiet. Yeah, we couldn't make noise and
Okay.
cry.
And if you raised your voice, you got in trouble. So do you guys see the link now between why she has a concern about finding her words?
Oh yeah, I didn't get that one.
You see that now?
Yeah.
So every time that you are in a situation where you need to speak up, how many of you are relating to this, by the way? I have a theory about all of us, that we have patterns and strategies that we created when we were little in order to survive situations. And what she internalized was, don't speak up, and you're a piece of shit if you do. And believe me, that protected your ass. It worked, because you didn't speak up and you didn't get in trouble with your dad.
Right, and I still got the love. So if I speak up now, I'm going to lose my dad's love.
Do you see this?
Yeah.
So this is a pattern that got written when she was little. And it was written by someone else. And it worked. It worked. The problem is now that you're...
working now.
It's not working now.
It's not working now.
Not working now.
Can't
and
move
see,
forward.
exactly. And so this is what's fascinating about all this. There are places in your life where you have patterns that you don't even recognize, that were strategies that you developed when you were a kid. And so in the areas where you're really frustrated, that pattern is probably not present or conscious, something that you're aware of. And so every single time, because you've been repeating this and repeating it and repeating it, every single time you're about to hit play, every single time you're going to stand on a stage, what's going to be right there is, don't speak up.
Yeah.
Freeze. Freeze. And you're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The only thing that actually overrides this pattern is to speak. And through speaking, you will see that you're not a piece of shit. You actually have something to say. Or you could make fun of it and say, well, I guess I'm just a piece of shit, something to say.
That's going to be my thing.
Yes.
I'm a piece of shit, and I got something to say.
That's right. And I also like the strategy of kind of making the fun of the stuff, even the heavy stuff, because it loses its grip on me. It works for me. It may not work for you, but it's something to try. The other stuff that's super cool about this is that, we've all bought into this lie that somehow beating yourself up and tough love and being hard on yourself is motivating. Wrong. All the research shows that it is demotivating. If you're somebody that's stuck, if you're somebody that has regrets, if you're somebody that is tired of where you are, if you feel like, why can't I change? Beating yourself up is making it worse. You have to learn how to cheer for yourself where you are. Because if you're not, you will never find the motivation to change. So they did this study with kids where they broke kids into 3 different groups, okay? And they gave the kids very challenging problems. And they wanted to know what was going to be the thing that researchers could do to motivate and inspire kids to work through a challenging problem, and what is going to be the most effective thing that we could do to give somebody that boost that you need to really face something that's hard. So group number 1 got the old fixed mindset praise, where it's like, hey, you're super smart, Rich. Hey, Rich, you're really good looking in those glasses, and I bet they help you make you focus on this problem. Keep going, buddy. The second group got the fixed mindset praise, which is, hey, Rich, you're really, really working hard. Rich, that perseverance is amazing. Keep going. The third group, they got a simple high five. No words, just a high five. The group with the simple high five outperformed the other 2 group and then some.
That's
Why?
so crazy.
Why? I'll tell you why. A high five is fulfilling your fundamental emotional needs. It's not about the problem. When you high five somebody, including yourself, you are affirming that somebody exists. You are saying, I see you. And you're celebrating with them. You know how those things go viral all year long of teachers standing outside their classroom doing individual handshakes with kids? It's the same thing. Every one of those kids is being seen as an individual and celebrated. Do tiny things every day that boost your mood, okay? So we're going to build your mood muscle. If you can, move your body. because negativity gets stored here. And moving your body, we know based on the research, simply moving your body for 10 or 20 minutes a day will release chemicals in your mind that help you boost your mood. The second thing that will boost your mood is I want you to make a tiny promise to yourself every day. Just one thing that makes you feel more positive. Is it getting up on time? Is it eating something healthy? Is it only having one glass of wine or reaching for a mocktail? I want you to put one tiny promise into place. Put it into the comments right now. What's one tiny promise that you can make to yourself that you're going to do every day? It might just be that you're going to wake up every day, take a deep breath, remind yourself that you're healthy, and that's going to be the tiny promise. I want you to do one tiny promise every day because keeping a promise to yourself will boost your mood and make you feel more in control. Another way to build your mood muscle is have a zero tolerance policy for your own negative thoughts. Right now, as you edit social media and edit your news take and edit your negativity coming in from the outside world, do not tolerate negativity from the inside world. I woke up this morning, I looked in the mirror, I looked at the gray hairs that are coming in, particularly like right up here, and I started to go negative. I started to feel dreary, and I went, Mel, cut this out. You got to fight to stay positive, gal, because we are in this for another couple months. And do not succumb to despair. Do not start thinking negative stuff. When you have negativity internally, you got to have a zero tolerance policy for that. It's one thing to feel what you need to feel so that you can move through it. It's another thing to let negativity dwell up here and start ruminating. The 5-second rule is genius for this. Count backwards. The second that negative, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Not listening to it. No, I am redirecting my thoughts. That's right. I am looking for the things I can control. I am keeping a positive attitude by focusing on things that I can control right now today. First of all, you got to give yourself permission to really have what you want. Okay, because you got to have the thing that you're visualizing be something that is authentically something that you want. Number 2, you must see yourself taking the steps, the tiny actions, and doing the work that will lead you to creating or having what you want. Third, you got to feel in your body what it feels like to do the work. And you also have to feel pride as you see yourself doing the work, because that amplifies your mind, body, and spirit really imprinting and training and preparing for it. And fourth, obviously, you got to take the actions. And all of that manifesting and preparing inspires you to take the actions. But one place where so many folks get stuck when they start trying to make manifesting a daily habit is you go and you know what you want, but then you sit down and you try to imagine what the steps are that you need to take to get there, and you don't have a clue. Your mind goes blank. If this is you, I'm so excited that you're watching this, because the simple trick based in science is called the power of objectivity. All you got to do is stop visualizing yourself and insert your friend Mel Robbins or insert somebody else that you love and admire. And the power of objectivity is going to immediately switch you from a blocked mind to one that is bolder and more creative and able to visualize the steps. Now, I'm not just making this up. There's extraordinary research that was just written about in the Harvard Business School Review. They did 8 different studies at the University of Wisconsin where they were studying the power of objectivity. And with thousands of participants, here's what they found. When participants tried to visualize themselves doing hard things, immediately, the participants, when they thought about themselves doing something hard, like let's just say asking for a raise, okay? I want you to imagine yourself asking for a raise or applying for that dream job. When you visualize yourself doing it, you immediately focus in on minutia. You start imagining all kinds of things that could go wrong. You start arguing against yourself, and doubt comes flooding in. You have a very cautious mindset when you place yourself in those scenarios. However, if you were to visualize me, Mel Robbins, asking for that raise, immediately your mindset switches to being very bold. being creative, seeing all kinds of opportunities. And in fact, when you not only visualize me, your friend Mel Robbins, asking for that raise that you want, when you give me advice, you're super enthusiastic. You're like, Mel, you should go for it. And I bet in your life, you have probably told friends or loved ones, you should ask for more money. And you mean it because you're visualizing them. But you yourself won't visualize yourself doing that. You talk yourself out of it. We've all had this experience. You yourself are probably sitting there going, you're right, Mel. I constantly tell my friends, you deserve more. You should break up with that jerk. Do. You should go for it. But when it comes to yourself, you see the excuses and doubt. So I want you to leverage not only this common sense, but this research to your advantage when it comes to manifesting. Pick what you want. And then if your mind goes blank when it comes to seeing yourself do the work, literally just insert your friend Mel Robbins or insert anybody that you love. We tend to think about fear as something that's up here, that the fears are all in our heads. Well, the truth is your body feels fear and remembers fear and senses fear way before your mind does. And the reason why I want to talk to you about this is because, as many of you know, we have a brand new audiobook that just launched with Audible Originals. So Audible Originals is an imprint inside of Audible. We are a major partner of Audible's, and we just released a brand new audiobook. It's their #1 new release on Audible called Take Control of Your Life: How to Silence Fear and Win the Mental Game. And there were some unbelievable things that I learned and that my team learned and that we're now sharing with you in doing that project. So Take Control of Your Life isn't your typical audiobook. It's not me just reading a book that I wrote. What Take Control of Your Life is Take Control of Your Life is a live coaching and takeaway program that's 10 hours long. And so there are 6 people that you meet when you listen to Take Control of Your Life. And they have fears, just like you have fears that are holding them back, just like you have fears that hold you back, fears that impact your life in a negative way. And we go session by session for 6 sessions. You listen to the coaching session, you hear about somebody else's fear, you hear me coaching this person live, and then I spend like 45 minutes unpacking the entire coaching session for you. And on top of it, you guys, there's a 55-page workbook that our team designed that goes along as a companion to this audiobook. And you don't even need to buy the audiobook to get the workbook or to get the takeaways, because I'm giving you the takeaways for free here on our live stream. So if you want the audiobook, just go to melrobbins.com/take control and you can download the audiobook. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is I'm going to talk to you about the session that we did with Heather in Take Control of Your Life. And it's a really incredible session because Heather is held back at work because what happens is when she has to have a really difficult conversation, when there's something that she wants to talk to her boss about, when there's a conflict with one of her colleagues. You ever have a conflict with your colleagues at work? Ever feel like you work in a toxic work environment? Well, this is something that you need to understand. Sometimes the toxicity in your work environment is about the other people. And sometimes the toxicity in your work environment or in your life environment or your friend environment is about stored memories in your body from your childhood. I know it's crazy stuff because the saying, feel the fear and do it anyway, it's true because your body feels situations that set you, that put you in a state of being afraid before your mind catches up and starts thinking about what you're afraid of. And so one of the key takeaways from Take Control, and one of the things that I want to teach you today, is that if you start to tune into your body and you start to notice the signals that your body is sending to you in your day-to-day life, signals like butterflies in your stomach, signals like feeling a rush of energy up to your neck, signals like your armpits sweating, signals like your hands getting sweaty, signals that your body is stepping and noticing a situation that reminds it of your past. Learning how to read those signals that, oh my God, here goes my body. My body is starting to recognize that this is a situation that puts me on edge. Recognizing those signals first and slowing the body response down before your brain starts to go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. That is a critical skill in taking control of your life. I want to tell you a little bit about the science. So there's this famous neuroscientist called Antonio Damasio, and he did a really interesting study where he discovered that our body senses fear before our mind even realizes it. And when fear or danger, speaking to your boss, calling a prospect, going to the gym when you're not proud of the way that you look, and it's not fear like terror. It's more that low-grade agitation in your body. I felt it yesterday because I went to a boot camp class yesterday, and I'm not in good shape, and I don't do boot camp classes, and Kendall and I are staying at this hotel where, holy cow, everybody seems like there's some sort of professional weightlifter or Instagram model, and so it was really intimidating, and I could feel that agitation in my body. That's the kind of fear I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the paralysis fear your life is threatened and you really are in a life or death situation. I'm talking about the low-grade agitation that is there when you're about to do something that makes you feel a little uncomfortable. So when fear or danger is sensed in the body, your body begins a stress response before your mind even catches up. And if you want to take control of your life, you got to take control of that physical state. And it starts with catching these moments, everyone, when you start to feel it. Okay. And so for some of you, it may be a pit in the stomach. For some of you, it may be tightening in the chest. For Heather, who was one of the people I coached in Take Control, it was this massive wave of heat that went into her chest, tightness, a rash, and then she could start to feel that she was crying. You need to understand how do you react to situations that make you nervous. And it's this idea that you don't ever start. You stay trapped in your head. And if you feel paralyzed, if you've been spinning the same ideas over and over and over again, then you know what I'm talking about. You see, many of you are thinking way too big. You're attaching way too much pressure on the things that you're interested in. Until you start blogging about fashion, you won't even know if you like it. So thinking that you have a dream about doing it and thinking that you have this grand plan that you're going to do it full time, it is a complete and utter waste of your time to be dreaming that big. And let me tell you why. Because oftentimes, if you're the kind of person like Vicky that's getting trapped up here, the bigness of what you're thinking about is what's stopping you. What I want you to do if you're in Vicky's situation is I want you to stop dreaming and I want you to just start doing small things. I want you to go back to curiosity and less into crushing your big goals. The thing about life and business and success is that you have to be willing to start. And for people that procrastinate, starting is the hardest part. For people that worry, for people that think too big, starting is the hardest part. Folks that study procrastination talk about the fact that the only way to beat procrastination is to create what they call a starting ritual, which is a way to push yourself to get started. Because all the research shows that if we can push you to get started on something, you'll likely keep going. Do it anyway is a mindset trick that you can use when you start to feel excuses rolling up. It works a lot like the 5-second rule. You have said to yourself, okay, I'm going to talk to my boss today about that thing that I've been avoiding talking to them about. And then the moment comes where you've got to have that conversation. Or the moment comes where it's time to pack up your bag and leave your desk and go to the gym. And what always happens? You don't feel like it. I bet there are plenty of you watching that have made a commitment that, I'm not going to have a drink tonight. And then guess what happens when you get home? You don't feel like not drinking. You feel like having a drink. Here's what do it anyway has done for me. The idea that I just do it anyway has pushed me to realize and to recognize that there are a lot of moments where there are things in my life that I really want to do, I need to do, but when the moment comes, I don't feel like it. And so I pull out this idea of, you know what? I'm just going to do it anyway. It's raining outside. I said I would go for a short run. I don't don't feel like it, I'm going to do it anyway. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm tired. It's cold. I laid out my yoga clothes, but now I don't feel like it. What do? I do it anyway. When you start to say to yourself, I'm going to do it anyway, what happens is something really cool. You acknowledge that there are feelings that you have that are trying to swoop in and hijack you. And you basically say, guess what? I'm going to do it anyway. This one is like really important. You need to do the work, okay? You got to do the work because it's only through your actions that you will accomplish what you want. Let's say that you've always wanted to climb a particular mountain, okay? There's a mountain called Haystack. It's not even that tall, so I should probably pick a bbigger one, but let's just call it Haystack Mountain. You've always wanted to climb Haystack Mountain. You pull up to Haystack Mountain, and you get out of the car, you park at the, National Forest parking lot, and you make the mistake of looking up at the mountain, which is the end goal, right? And you notice it's up in the clouds. And then you start to think, oh my God, that's a really far way away. I don't really know how I feel about doing this anymore because that looks like it's going to take a really long time. And then all of a sudden it starts to rain. And you go, I don't think I want to do this because I don't think I feel like doing this. And next thing you know, you are back in the car, driving back down the road to that little diner that you saw. And instead of climbing the mountain that you've always dreamt of climbing, you've now come up with an excuse and you have abandoned ship. You now have literally become your own obstacle. You talked yourself out of it. You started to doubt yourself. You told yourself you weren't ready and that you didn't feel like it. You pull the ripcord, you're out of there. In order to have what you want in life, you must stop staring at the top of that mountain. You must stop creating excuses for why you can't or don't feel like it. And you must put your head down and look at the first step in front of you. And then you must take the action and start walking toward what you want. And it'll be a hell of a lot easier for you to do that if you have also been putting in the time every day consistently to not only see yourself walking up that trail step by step, but that you have felt yourself pushing through the resistance, the fear, the obstacles, the excuses that are stopping you now. And feel proud in every fiber of your being as you push through those obstacles and see yourself and feel yourself doing the work. That's how you manifest properly. And if you do that before you pull into the national park parking lot, if you look up at that mountain and you see clouds and it starts raining, it won't matter because you've already rehearsed this moment in your mind, body, and spirit. And you, my friend, will start walking up that trail. And you're going to be proud. That's how you use manifesting to get what you want. That's how you leverage all the science and research to train and prepare your mind, body, and spirit to help you get what you want. And that's how you hack the motivation and inspiration that you need to take the actions that get you everything that you want and deserve in life. When I hear the word productivity, I don't want you to think about plowing through a to-do list. Because part of the reason why you don't feel productive is because you're busy doing the things that aren't important to you. Yeah, do you need to make sure you have milk or you got almond milk or oat milk in the fridge? Of course you do. But have you ever noticed that all the busy crap in life tends to take care of itself? That you don't really need to focus your time and energy on the minutia that's on your to-do list because that stuff tends to grab your attention. What you really need to do is figure out how to create time and how to create the focus that you need in order to feel like you are making progress on the important things. And that's really what productivity means to me. You get all kinds of stuff done. You're really busy in your life, aren't you? But are you getting progress made on the important things? Probably not, because that's the challenge for most of us. And so first things first, when it comes to trying to have a breakthrough in productivity, you need a game plan. You need to have a very short list every week of what actually matters to you. Okay? Because I guarantee you, if you were to do an audit of the way that you spend your time this week, you would probably see that 95% of your time is spent on things that you really don't care about. And even more scary, I bet you don't even realize how much time you are wasting just mindlessly scrolling through social media or sitting on the couch with the TV on, also answering emails. That is the least productive way to spend your time. Multitasking, spending your time just sort of zoning out on things that don't matter. What I want you to do is I want you right now to think about, what is it between now and the end of this week, for example? What is it that matters to you? What's the most important thing that you would love to make progress on that you never seem to find the time, okay? It's a whole nother conversation for us to talk about whether or not you actually have time, because the fact is you do have time. You have plenty of time to make small amount of progress every single day on what matters to you. What you do not have right now is you do not have a plan for prioritizing the important stuff in your life.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video, because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Gabby Bernstein, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
The universe is always listening to everything we do, and the universe is a yes for what we're a yes for. So by following along and sticking around till the end, you've already begun the journey of saying yes to